Good evening from Swansea wrestling fans. Last night, the wrestling world was in shock as Wyndham Rotunda died at age 36 from a heart attack during his recovery from COVID, which he caught earlier this year. Today, the wrestling community is mourning for who I consider the most creative mind in professional wrestling. He made you feel for his characters, he made you care about them, and therefore you cared about his storylines. He understood that story is king in wrestling. And if people care about the story, they care about the characters, then they will already care about the match before the bell has even rung. Over the next 15 to 20 minutes, we'll be giving our tribute to Wyndham Rotunda and talking our favourite matches and moments and just memories in general from his career. I'm going to start it off by saying this. Whenever I have a friend who's not really into wrestling, I always tell them the same thing. I always show them the same thing, and that is Bray Wyatt. I show them the Firefly Funhouse. I show them the Fiend. I show them from those first Firefly Funhouse vignettes, right, all the way to the debut of the Fiend, because it gets them to it gets them to care about the character before they even see it, and then they're already hooked when he has that debut match against Finn Balor as the Fiend. They're already drawn into it, and they already care. And that's something which Bray Wyatt always did. No matter the character, he made you care about characters. And it's something which, translates to movies, to everything. And it's something which, it's a quality which not many wrestlers have in this day and age. And is one of the many reasons why Bray Wyatt will be so missed. Obviously, our thoughts are currently with Wyndham Rotunda's family at the minute. Bo Dallas, Jojo, his kids, everybody. And today we're gonna share our favorite moments of his. So I'm gonna firstly hand it over to the co-host of the show, Clark. Clark, do you want to give out your favorite memory or something from Bray's career?
Absolutely. I'm a longtime fan of Bray's. He's just an amazing performer and has always been. The first time I ever saw him live was at SummerSlam in 2014 against Chris Jericho. And that entrance it was one of the first times I think at a live event I really saw all the phone lights at once during his entrance with the lantern. And I got goosebumps, right? It was amazing. And it's funny because at that time I was still in college and I wouldn't say a lapsed fan. I still watched Mania and the Rumble and I was aware of who was on the roster. I played the video game, but I just was not watching week to week the same way I was as a kid. You're in college. And I went to that SummerSlam in 14 in Los Angeles, and it really brought me back, right? And I've been brought back a few times when I've been slightly lapsed or just, I'm a fan of all sports. Bray Wyatt did that. He was as big a part of that as anybody. It was that entrance alone was amazing. I downloaded the song that night. I'll never forget it. Like, you know what I mean? And from there, his creativity just bled through the screen. I appreciate good writing and good storytelling, and he was world class at both and world class at performance art. He just was. He could improvise. Him at Raw bringing out the choir on Cena. Nobody has made Cena look like they were in a worse position in the ring at the height of Super Cena's powers than Bray did that night. Cena looked distraught and terrified. It was brilliant, right? It really was in hindsight. And from there, the Fiend, that entrance against Finn Balor, come on. Speaking of SummerSlams, it's just hard to quantify the impact he had on this industry. And I think about other legends in a similar category, The Undertaker and Mankind. And you have, and you can add Kane in there as well. And he used the mandible claw. And I found it super, super cool. Mick Foley posted it, a tribute to Bray last night and mentioned how flattered he was by his use of the mandible claw. And it's a move that it's unique, but it's brilliant. And Bray used it to a T when he did. And he, in my eyes, is tied to those other wrestlers and characters that we saw for eternity. He's a legend in this business. And what he brought to the table creatively and his passion, it won't be forgotten. That's what I most want people to remember. There's no reason to forget Bray Wyatt because his impact is lasting, no doubt.
No, absolutely. I mean, like you said, like we always say, because it's true, whenever a wrestler passes, they always have an impact on wrestling, which will last, and that is always true. Somebody always inspires somebody else. But Bray Wyatt, like we spoke of his characters, how he got so many people invested, that is something which really will be remembered, and pretty much every wrestler from who's been a kid growing up these last 10 years have taken at least some inspiration from that. He is really somebody who people will look up to, I think, for decades and decades to come. And another point which you made there was that he got you back into wrestling in 2014. Almost everybody, right, since, and this isn't even just since Bray's past, I've heard it over the years, tons and tons and tons, the amount of people that Bray Wyatt got back into wrestling after a hiatus. It's crazy. He's brought so many people in so many times. I mean, we've got David Sheldon, Wrestling Public's David Sheldon, in the comments here, who was saying, he was really glad that he was our friend. He's doing the Firefly Funhouse. Oh, yeah. Theme there. And yeah, no, absolutely. And David, somebody who said before, he said on the show that Bray Wyatt, somebody who pulled him in at times, when he was kind of kind of not falling out of love with wrestling, but it wasn't he's kind of become a bit more of a casual, and then Bray Wyatt pulled him back in multiple times throughout his career, and that's something which a lot of people have said about him. But Anthony, I'll pass it to you next.
Yeah, something that I said last night was that Bray left his mark on this business. For a short amount of time that he was here, he left a lasting mark, one that will be remembered by fans present and will be something to be talked about in the future for other fans. He entered the business as a third generation wrestler. There's a lot of pressure when you're a generational talent because you'll always be compared to the people that came before you. And Bray gave us something completely different, a different character, starting with the Wyatt family. And I think he openly talked about Dusty Rhodes took a liking to him in NXT. I guess he saw a lot in him, heavyset guy, had a lot of charisma. Dusty was friends, obviously, with Mike Rotunda, his father, took him under his wing, and they created this really compelling character and this cast of outcasts, if you will, in the Wyatt family. And I didn't fully, I'll be perfectly honest, there are different points where they've done things with Bray Wyatt that I wasn't overly crazy about because it delved more into horror. And I'm really not a horror fan, but I understood what they were trying to do and what they were trying to appeal to. And I always admired his creativity and his willingness to take chances with the character. And like Clark said, I had a similar experience when I was in the arena. And I don't remember which show it was, but I remember being there with my buddy Chris. And it was during the Wyatt family time, and it was the entrance. And I've never experienced an entrance to me other than The Undertaker that really you felt something different. And watching the fans holding up their phones with the being the fireflies, that was something so organic and so real. That's not something WWE or any other wrestling company can go, hey, fans, we want you to do this. It was natural. It was organic. It was the connection that Bray had with the fans. So for me, like that moment is one that I will always cling to. Personally, as you guys know, I dealt with a couple tragedies last year. And one of the constant things that people kept telling you is don't focus on the sadness, focus on the happy memories. So I think back to like moments of that Firefly entrance and different moments that Bray had. And that's what I'm trying to focus on, not so much, the sudden passing at 36 years old. There are a lot of guys that wrestle a lot longer periods of time are not remembered. Bray's going to be
Yeah.
remembered, whether it's tonight during SmackDown, whether it's a Hall of Fame induction. Bray's legacy in this business will last a lifetime.
No, absolutely. You are bang on there. He will be remembered for years and years and years to come and influence, so many wrestlers. I mean, I honestly, I guarantee you, we're gonna be, in 15 years talking about Bray Wyatt still, and wrestlers are gonna be saying to us, that Bray's the one who inspired them to get into the business. He inspired this, he inspired that. And a lot of people are going to look back on him, very, very fondly, and we're going to see elements of him forever in wrestling. I think there's no doubt about that. But Shad, what about you? What's your favorite memories of Bray Wyatt?
First and foremost, I gotta, pay due and respect, man. My condolences obviously go out to his family, loved ones, and all the fans out there in the wrestling community are mourning just like we are. And man, it took me by shock yesterday. Obviously, we were live doing it. I've got an opportunity to gather my thoughts after, almost 24 hours. But Bray Wyatt, man, I'll tell you this, similar to what Clark was saying, it was around 2014. You know, fresh into college a little bit, a couple years into college, kind of out of wrestling a little bit. I got drawn back into it when I saw the Wyatt family. I thought the whole faction and Bray specifically was just so intriguing. You see this cult like group, this you know guy who looked like he came out from a woodworks in the swamp with his Hawaiian shirt and hat and just big beard and long hair. He just had so much charisma. And you guys mentioned that comparisons to Mick Foley. To me, Mick Foley is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and that drew me into being a fan of Bray because I saw the similarities and just the character arc. And I said it earlier, man, being able to recreate yourself is a very difficult thing. Being able to reestablish with your character, especially when you go throughout years and years and years, whether it be 5, 10, you know, it makes people invested into you. And, the Wyatt family initially, that was something that was fresh, that was new, a match specifically. We can't forget about one of the best multi-man matches that they had against the Shield, two of the best factions in WWE history. You talk about his feuds with John Cena um, throughout the years, like Clark was saying with the choir of kids with the he got the whole world in it, like that. Come on, man, like stuff like that. But for me, it definitely a more memorable moment as of late would have been definitely during the pandemic when we got an opportunity to have that cinematic match and we got to see him versus Cena in the Fiend. I know a lot of people may have not initially saw it as a regular wrestling style match, but this was a creative idea during a time where we didn't know what was going on. Everything was closed down. You kind of had to work with what you were given. And I thought him and Cena like just told a crazy story that had so many different pockets within it that tied to their feud and just wrestling history and just history amongst both wrestlers that it was so entertaining. And I remember watching that with my fiance at the girlfriend at the time, but fiance now, and she was so drawn into it. And then obviously like just continuously, well, he got to work with Alexa Bliss, like moments like that, like watching it with your loved one, and you get to share those moments. It was an emotional time, just talking about it with her yesterday. And I mean, I hope he's at peace, man. I agree. In life, you want to be remembered in this world for inspiring and giving back to people or leaving a positive impression to a person. And I think he's done that to millions upon millions of people. I think, beyond the wrestler, everybody in that locker room has all positive things to say about him. Fans talk about how much he's inspired them. And then just being a family man, beautiful children that he has, beautiful wife and family, man. You can tell that he's just a beloved person, and I know that his legacy will live on forever. It's it's tough to mourn at the moment, but you just got to cherish the good moments, and best will. I know he wants the best for everyone, and I think everyone just celebrating his life tonight on SmackDown would be a great thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've got a couple of comments here. Firstly, Mark76, who agrees with you, saying, the Funhouse match with Cena at Mania gave everyone an escape early on in the pandemic, and I will always remember that. Yeah, no, absolutely, I couldn't
Never
agree
forget
more.
it.
And we've got a comment from JD Designs as well, saying this one hit hard. The news made me take the morning off work and spend it with my daughter at her favorite farm park. Family is so important. I mean,
That's amazing.
Things like this make you realize, how important life is and how it can, we can't waste it. And yeah, families are undoubtedly so important. We've got Drizzy saying he was one of the most creative minds in wrestling, and Numero One Superfly saying, "Rest in peace, Bray Wyatt. Gone but never forgotten." I want to quickly to end things show. I want to quickly read out something which Bray posted on Instagram in 2022, and a lot of people have been reposting it, but I just want to quickly read it out because it really is. It's such a beautiful way to look at wrestling, and this is what Bray said. Wrestling is not a love story. It's a fairy tale for masochists, a comedy for people who criticize punchlines, a fantasy most can't understand, a spectacle no one can deny. Lines are blurred, heroes are villains, budgets are cut, business is business. But it can also be a land where dead men walk, where honor makes you elite, where demons run for office, and rock bottom is a reason to rejoice. Whoo! It's an escape, a reason to point the blame at anyone but yourself for 2 to 3 hours, an excuse to be a kid again, and nothing matters except the moment we are in. Wrestling is not a love story, it's much more. It's hope. In a world surrounded in hate, greed, and violence, a world where closure may never come, we all know a place that has a hot and cold hope on tap, for better or for worse. And I think that is really, really powerful there for Bray. It looks like they're going to be doing a SmackDown tribute show tonight, so hopefully, the people who can, knew him the closest will be able to pay tribute then. But now we're gonna run the countdown, similar to what we did with Jay Briscoe a few months ago, and we're then gonna move on to give our all-in predictions. But yeah, we're gonna very quickly hit the countdown, and we'll be back in 30 seconds. Right, now let's talk about what's happening this Sunday. And this Sunday, AEW are taking over Wembley Stadium in London. Potentially 90,000 seats, 90,000 fans in their seats. A paid attendance, potentially, and probably will be the largest paid attendance in wrestling history. AEW promoting it as the biggest wrestling event of all time. And I really don't know how many people agree with that claim, but I'd probably say it's the biggest wrestling event outside of WWE ever, and certainly one of the most historical events in recent history in professional wrestling. I'm going to be there. Chaos is already there. David is on his way there right now, and it's going to be, it's going to be a great time for sure. We're now going to give our predictions for the event, and let's kick things off with a match which was announced on AEW Dynamite this week, and it was one which, well, a lot of people weren't really expecting, and that is the House of Black versus the Acclaimed. Like I said, not many people were really expecting this, but I'm glad it's happening. House of Black, they have an amazing entrance. I mean, we spoke about earlier about, Bray Wyatt's phenomenal entrance. House of Black, clearly they've taken, elements of inspiration from him there. And I certainly think that it's going to be a great thing to see this entrance in person. Also, the Acclaim, they've got another great entrance, to hear Max Caster rapping live. That's going to be an experience for sure. So I'm excited for this one. Now, in terms of who I think is going to win, I think it's going to have to be the Acclaimed. I think the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn are going to win the AEW Trios Championships very simply because otherwise it'll be the third time they've lost to them. And I don't know why they've done this entire Billy Gunn returning storyline if that's not the case. So my prediction for this is the Acclaimed taking the victory. But what about you, Clark?
So here's some Friday afternoon levity because I did my predictions in the middle of the night as you requested from me, and I really can't remember who I picked. I was going to go with the same one here, but I might pick the opposite. I could be wrong. I could be getting myself in trouble here, but I'm actually going to go with the House of Black retains. And this is how we kick off Billy Gunn moving over to rejoin his sons.
Ooh.
And I love the Acclaimed, but I think that's what's happening here. And that's what I'm going to go with. I may have actually picked the Acclaim in my picks. I did it at 4:30 in the morning. Like you asked, you said, if you get up in the middle of the night, do it. 4:30 in the morning, I did my picks. And I cannot remember if I picked in this one, which is just bugging me to death. But my pick on air, at least, is the House of Black to retain, just because I think the tease of Billy Gunn being the old school DX Billy Gunn is just to get our hopes up here. Yeah. And the house will retain once again. That's what I'm going with, guys. And sorry for making fun of myself there.
Oh, the WR win predictor is already completely corrupt. But no, it's.
Did I switch picks? Do you remember what I picked?
I'm gonna be honest, I haven't looked at the individual results yet, but no, I mean, I could very well see that happening. Like I said, I said it a little bit ago. I kind of expected Billy Gunn to return as part of Bullet Club, but because that's not happened, I kind of am feeling now like it probably will. Just be, you'll just stay with the Acclaimed, and perhaps he'll hold one more championship. I mean, a crazy statistic here is that Billy Gunn, I think, was wrestling in WWE. Correct me if I'm wrong here, guys. I believe 1989. Yep. And he's still wrestling on television. He was on television then, and he's still on television now, if that is correct.
I believe that his television debut was 89. Not as Billy Gunn, but as a different character. And then he came back as a part of the Smoking Guns in like 94.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I saw a photo posted on somebody's Instagram. I wish I could remember who it was. I could credit you, but yeah, I mean, that is just unbelievable. Wrestling on national TV in 89, and now in 2023 to still be on television and to still be killing it on television as well, because he's very entertaining every time we see him out there. He's got a lot of energy in the ring. He does not look his age whatsoever. And I'm excited for this one. I mean, I really am. But yeah, Clark, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one in terms of who is going to be the Trios champions walking out of Wembley Stadium. But now let's talk about the AEW Real World Championship, because that is on the line as CM Punk defends against Samoa Joe. Now, I think this is a pretty simple prediction. I think it's going to be CM Punk for one main reason, and that reason is that, well, if CM Punk loses the Real World Championship, well, there's just not really a, point in it, is there? Because the entire point is CM Punk never lost the title, which is why it exists. I mean, I do agree. I'm kind of confused about why this has been recognized by AEW, this championship. I don't really get it. But even still, I think this is going to be a great match. I really hope it's a bit better than the match in Canada from a couple of months ago, because I thought that was probably the worst match the two have had together. I'm really hoping they will blow the roof off Wembley, if there was a roof. There isn't going to be a roof. I haven't actually checked the weather, but hopefully the forecast is nice for it. Otherwise, maybe Samoa Joe will be coming out in a poncho again like he did at WrestleMania 37. But yeah, we're going to have to wait and see on that one. But Anthony, who do you reckon will be walking out of Wembley Stadium as the real world champion?
I think it's, like you said, it's Punk. Punk makes the most sense. I do think this is eventually going to go to Punk and MJF, which was the callback to All Out last year. I think that's where it's headed. Eventually, Punk and MJF fighting over the undisputed AEW World Championship. I don't think I could be wrong, Ben. I think the announcers did say at one point that Punk's title wasn't officially recognized yet. There's a graphic for it. But Punk and Joe have a lot of history together from Ring of Honor. They're best friends outside of the ring. So there's a lot of chemistry there, and I think they could deliver. Unfortunately, I think it's pretty obvious that I can't picture Joe winning this, because if Joe wins this and they have Punk win it back before the MJF match, it kind of kills the momentum of going, I never lost the title. So I think it is a pretty obvious one. I kind of wish they wouldn't have done the Joe Punk match prior, and this is the first time they're meeting, because I think it would have been a bigger deal. Since the history kind of, you lose that historic match of going, oh, this is the first time in, was it 13 years or whatever it was?
Yeah.
You don't have that now. It's like the first time in a month or 2 months or whatever, however long it was these days. But Punk will be my pick.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, would agree with you there. I mean, Shad, do you agree with that? Do you reckon Punk's going to take the victory too?
Yeah, I don't. As much as I love Samoa Joe, I don't see a way that Punk doesn't win this match. I agree with Anthony. I think we're gonna lead to a Punk and MJF, who's the real champion feud. No, it's silly, but I think we'll get to that. But I think Punk's gonna win the match.
Yeah, we can see as well, for our audio listeners, in the right corner of the
Samoa Joe's going night.
in the corner of the screen, Clark, CM Punk's biggest fan, is doing the sleeping gesture.
The Chicago guy supports the Chicago guy.
Joe's going night.
This is a tough one for you though, because doesn't Samoa Joe also live like around where you live at?
Huntington Beach, that's like South LA. That's not even.
Oh, okay, got you. All right.
That doesn't even matter to me.
Clark doesn't
It's like
count that.
45 minutes north.
I thought it'd be okay. I got you.
One of the worst local beaches too. It's all littered and gross.
And there we go. Lost that segment of the audience.
Oh, Clark is now a heel.
Sorry, Huntington Beach. I didn't like Tito Ortiz either. Why would I like Samoa Joe?
Oh man.
Here comes the hate comments.
Oh gosh, but yeah, no, what a surprise. Well, we're all going for CM Punk at the end of the day. CM Punk will still be walking out of Wembley as the real world champion if our predictions are true. But now let's move on and let's talk about somebody who I really love as a wrestler. I really enjoy their in-ring work. They're one of my favorites in between the ropes in the world, and that is Will Ospreay, as he will be taking on Chris Jericho. And this is a match I feel like will either be match of the night and really surprise us, or it, will be a bit of a kind of under-deliver. I'm really hoping it's, the form. I really hope that they absolutely blow the roof off Wembley. Again, there is no roof on Wembley. I really need to stop using that reference. But yeah, I really hope it's going to be a fun match. I'd really, really like for Will Ospreay to win this, simply because then he can say that he defeated Kenny Omega, Kazuchika Okada, and Chris Jericho within 2 months, and nobody in history has done that before. So that would be, that would be fantastic. I personally, would absolutely love that to happen, but I do think Chris Jericho will be taking the win because it makes more sense from a storyline in AEW perspective. But Shad, what do you think on this one, and who do you reckon will be walking out the winner?
I disagree with you, Ben. I think that this match is set for Will Ospreay to get his moment. I've been saying it for the last few weeks on our Dynamite shows, reviewing the Dynamites on Throwback Thursdays, where I feel like this is like a legacy match for Will Ospreay. Now, how you take that, whether it may just be him in the moment going against Jericho, could be that, but I feel like TK is pretty good at understanding the moment of Ospreay getting to wrestle Jericho in the UK at Wembley. I feel like it does more of a benefit for Ospreay to win this match, being the younger superstar. And, I don't know, man, the fire that I heard from him this past week on that promo just has me feel like we're leaning towards this free agency coming to it. I see it as a lure to, tell them like, hey, we gave you this moment. Come over to AEW once your contract is up. That could be a little, little gimme to him to go there. But I feel like it's gonna be Ospreay's moment. I feel like it being in the UK, and I don't know. I feel like the moment is big, and I feel like it's for him to take advantage of. And I think Jericho is hopefully he's a selfless enough person to give a younger superstar that moment. So I'm gonna go with Billy Goat. He's gonna get that win, and I think it's gonna be a solid match. I think Ospreay. I mean, we're talking about a guy who you could argue is probably wrestler of the year going into 2023. Like he's had he's had like 2 or 3 of potential match of the years alone on his resume. He's got like some valuable wins, man. He's putting in a lot of work, man. I think he wins, and I think he keeps tallying up that resume to be wrestler of the year by the end of this year.
No, I do agree with that, and I hope you're right that he gets the win, in his home nation of England. You also mentioned that fantastic, and I haven't had a chance to talk about this yet, but that fantastic promo he delivered on Wednesday night on Dynamite. I loved it. I really, really did. Brought up the free agency thing. And the thing with Ospreay for a long time is he hasn't wanted to, to leave the UK full time, which is why he works in New Japan, I guess, part time, but he goes over for tours. So he is there for anything big. He's there for, and a lot of the tours as well. But he mentioned, now his I'm not sure if it's his girlfriend or if it's his fiance. She does have a kid, and he, Ospreay wants to make sure, he can support his family. And because of that, well, perhaps that changes things. Perhaps he is willing to move over to America. Perhaps, we talk about the bidding war of 2024. Maybe that's not about MJF. Maybe that's about Will Ospreay instead. I think it's about both of them. Clark's smiling because he still thinks MJF's already signed. Oh, it's all a work.
He's already home.
Oh, half our comments agree with you, Clark. You'd be glad to know that. But one of our comments also thinks that Clark was already a heel.
Shout out Sauce King. I don't know who you are, but you're spot on there. Reveal yourself, Sauce King.
Sauce King is also saying that Will Ospreay is the GOAT. I mean, I won't go that far, but I think maybe if he keeps going for another 10, 15 years, if he's able to, there's an argument from an in-ring standpoint, he might be, one of the best ever, because I actually think at times he's almost underrated, which is crazy. I don't think people actually pay him enough respect in terms of how great he is in the ring, how he can change his style. He really is exceptional. I mean, Anthony, do you think there's any chance, Will Ospreay does win, or do you think that Chris Jericho will be taking the dub?
I think Ospreay should win. Ospreay needs the win. It means more to him. Jericho has nothing left to prove. Ospreay is, in my opinion, probably the best in the business today. In that ring, he can have a phenomenal match with anybody. The only other 2 people that I would compare him to, it would be Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles. In that, it doesn't matter who he's in the ring with, you're almost guaranteed it's going to be better than it would be if that guy was facing anybody else. So I think Ospreay should win it. I expect a great match. Like I said last night, my only concern is, can Jericho keep up with him?
But I mean, I do agree with you there. I'm going to be very interested. You said, can Jericho keep up with him? Well, I think Ospreay's going to have to slightly slow down his style for Jericho.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, if, the best of the best wrestlers can do that, they can slow down their work, their style to, benefit and help, slower talent or whatever you want to say. So I think this, if these 2 really do have a slower paced match, but one which is, ends up being a classic, well, that speaks volumes as well to put Ospreay and the best in the world.
Let's be honest, too, though. Like, if Ospreay didn't grow up idolizing Jericho, given Jericho's style and impact on the style that Ospreay's been able to employ, I don't know who did. And so, if he's not willing to work with him, I mean, it's as much on Ospreay as it is Chris.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I just said, the best of the best will slow down their style, because that's what you need to do. The difference between a good wrestler and a great wrestler is a good wrestler will go out there and work their style fantastically. A great wrestler will go out and work the style that the other person is capable of doing. But Now, let's move on and let's talk about a couple of best friends. Let's talk about the best friends who'll be teaming up with Eddie Kingston, Orange Cassidy, and Pentagon Jr. to face the BCC, Santana and Ortiz. Sorry, the BCC and Santana and Ortiz in a 5-on-5 Stadium Stampede match. I've already given my thoughts on this match. I do not know how it's going to go in a stadium. I think the crowd might be a bit dead for it. And I certainly think going into the next match, the crowd will be a bit dead following it. So I think card placement is, very, very important for this match. We spoke about it on the Wednesday show this week that we thought that it should probably open the show. Very simply because if it opens the show, right, the crowd are going to be more on fire than they would be otherwise. And also, then when they see the first singles match, second match in the card, they'll probably be more lively for any. If it goes on first, they'll be more lively for the second match than they would be for any other match if it was after it. I think you risk, if you put it later on in the show, the crowd being dead for at least the first half of the match, which follows it. But, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I will be wrong. Hopefully Wembley will be super lively, and I think it will be. But, when it's such a long show, it's going to be difficult. But I'm excited for this. I just hope from an in-stadium, perspective, you'll be able to see it. Because, we haven't really spoken about this yet, but there's also concerns in Wembley about where they're going to put the monitors. I presume they're going to try and put something, above the ring for it.
Oh.
But it's really difficult to do. In Wembley Stadium, which is, again, there's so many issues logistically of running Wembley Stadium, which is why, WWE have kind of not done it for ages, but AEW, taking that risk. And I think I'm really hoping it goes well for them. I really am. I'm getting excited for this, talking about it. But back to the match anyway. I think it's guaranteed the BCC and Santana and Ortiz are going to win this one. But what about you, Clark? What do you think?
Well, Ben, you know how much I love you dearly and respect your opinions and whatnot on wrestling. But I do believe within 14 days of this very podcast, I mentioned that I wanted Proud and Powerful back. And you said it will never happen. And I just want my comeuppance on that at some point because I knew it all along. I knew it.
To be fair, it was Conan who said that. I was quoting Conan. Right?
Well,
go at Conan
was wrong. Conan was as wrong as all wrong. How do you like us now? Proud and Powerful's back. Santana and Ortiz. I love it. Yeah, this is a dominant performance out of the BCC plus Santana and Ortiz. And then I hope Santana and Ortiz break off. And whoever wins the FTR Bucks match, Santana and Ortiz are next. That is all I want to see come from this. I don't care how they handle the stadium thing because I do think they will be able to figure it out. You have such a huge stadium, such a huge canvas to paint on, and you have a lot of great performers. It may be a little convoluted. I think it'll be great in different spots. I talked about earlier this week. I think one great way you can set things up is having spots around the concourse. Because while fans will leave the stands with 90,000, you can afford that. And you'll get chants there that will cause chants outside that spot in the arena, given if there's a big enough screen to show it on to everyone. That's one way you can get around it. But at the end of the day, I'm just so stoked to see who I believe is the third of the big three outside of WWE tag team wrestling wise. Santana and Ortiz back in the ring once again, fully healthy, ready to go. And yeah, I have no doubt they win. Ortiz, to me, stole the show in the original Stadium Stampede, adjacent to the pool, all of those spots, the ringing of the bell and the selling is amazing. Ortiz was outstanding in that match during the pandemic era. Santana was great in that one too. Two performers that have been in a situation similar. They also were amazing in the street fight against the Best Friends. I have no doubt that this is going to probably over deliver. And I like that the narrative going in is that we're not sure if it doesn't affect other matches and whatnot. I think this ends up over delivering because of that.
Well, if they do go up, into the stands in Wembley, there is a chance that there will they will unfortunately get wet because as of right now, unfortunately, the forecast is light rain, which is fine. That won't affect light rain. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. If it's heavy rain, that's when the issues might start because of health and safety in Wembley being quite strict. But no, I do think the forecast looks, it looks decent enough. Sunny but light rain, 19 degrees. That'll mean nothing to Americans, or well, actually will mean something to Americans. You guys will think it's freezing cold. It's not. That's a nice temperature here. But
that's just Californians, not all Americans. Shad's in DC, that's freezing, and same with Philly.
No, but I mean 19 degrees. Isn't that on the American, the Fahrenheit that you guys use? Isn't that like?
Depends on where you are. Chicago, we're wind chill -20.
Oh, okay. I think what your system is then. It's not just higher. I think it's more dramatic. But anyway, because -20 in ours,
that's what we are.
Dead.
Dramatic.
Yeah, Americans. No,
Very much.
1776, baby.
Oh, not this again. Anyway, before Clark gets into his who you gonna call conversation, let's move on to the Bullet Club. Let's talk Bullet Club Gold as Jay White and Juice Robinson will be teaming up with Takeshita to take on the Golden Elite, who are Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and of course Kota Ibushi. I'm excited for this. I think it's gonna be a very fun 6-man tag team match. It is one of those ones though where I'm kind of not sure who's going to win either way, because I certainly think the feud between Bullet Club Gold and the Golden Elite will continue. But I'm going to predict the Golden Elite get the victory. And the reason I'm going to predict that is because, Takeshita isn't part of Bullet Club Gold. So I think there'll be a miscommunication or something. Maybe he'll just walk out again. I don't know, but I think there's something's going to happen. And the Golden Elite will get the victory. But what do you think, Anthony?
Gotta be honest, Ben. Before you tossed this, I kind of thought with the degree conversation you were going to talk about Clark's pool and that awkward incident with the video that's still on the page if anybody wants to look at it.
Please, nobody look at that. Please, no.
Hey, I'm plugging the page. So as far as this match goes, this might be one of the ones that I have the least amount of interest in. Just because I kind of feel it is kind of predictable that the Golden Elite are probably the odds-on favorites for this. I've said before, I've always been a fan of Jay White. I wish they would do more with him than like a 6-man tag. Like I really wanted a singles run with this guy. I just kind of feel like I don't picture them having the Elite lose on this card. I just kind of feel like this is kind of predictable unless they're throwing in another new unknown member that joins with this group. I mean, Takeshita is kind of like the floating guy. Like we kind of thought he was in BCC, wasn't officially, and now he's kind of in Bullet Club, but not in Bullet Club Gold. So I don't know where they're going to go with this, but if it drags out, there's a possibility Bullet Club Light would win this thing, but I think the most likely scenario is Golden Elite.
No, I do think that you made some great points there. I do think that's possible. And just when you were talking then, I just had an idea. What if at All Out they end up doing, or even on Dynamite this week, they end up doing Kenny Omega teaming with Chris Jericho, taking on Takeshita and Will Ospreay. I mean that could that could combine the two feuds, because I
think that's where they're going to go with it. I think Jericho and Omega are going to tag against Don's people, whether it's Ospreay. It's probably Ospreay and Takeshita would probably be the logical choice.
Because they need to do Takeshita versus Omega and Takeshita versus Jericho, and it's like, well, you can't do them both at All Out. So maybe the tag match is the move. And seeing Omega and Jericho team together against Don Callis, well, that's certainly something interesting. We got a couple of comments here, guys. We got firstly Bobby Batito, who's saying, "Hey guys, hello Bobby, welcome to the show." And we got Numero One Superfly saying, "Some debuts as returns I could possibly see happen are Paul White, Goldberg, Wardlow, Mickey James, and a top former WWE star that's not Edge, Matt Cardona, and not likely, but maybe Mercedes Moné." Oh, so sorry. A top WWE superstar that's not Edge, but you think Matt Cardona and then potentially Mercedes Moné, right? Okay. I mean, I wouldn't get hurt.
I don't think. I don't think it's Cardona. Cardona's not going.
I think the debut card is going to be all out over All In. The new I think people showing up, that's going to happen in United Center because it's just easier for travel. I don't know, maybe one of those names. I'm not necessarily saying one of those names, but somebody.
I mean,
I would love to see Mickey
literally
James
an all-out tradition at this point.
Of those names, the most likely, and I agree with Clark, it would probably be it all out, is probably Mercedes. That's probably the most logical of that group of names that were there.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that when we talk about the women's title match.
Oh, okay. Clark's
Sorry,
one idea.
You're right on the right place, and the wheels are spinning here.
I can see that Clark's got something up his sleeve. But talking about things which people have up their sleeve, somebody who's always got something up their sleeve is Christian Cage, as he will be teaming with Swerve Strickland to go against Darby Allin and Sting in a coffin tag match. Now, I'm gonna be honest, right? I'm not sure how excited I'd be for this match if I was watching it, on TV. But seeing all four of these guys, in person, to be able to see Sting in person, I've never been able to, see him in person before. I'm super excited for this. In terms of an in-arena experience, I think it should be fun. I reckon there's going to be a few spots, and I'm like, oh, that looks dangerous. But hopefully everybody will be okay, and hopefully it's just a fun match. And in terms of who's going to win, I'm absolutely convinced it's going to be Darby Allin and Sting. It's the coffin match. It's right up Sting's alley. It's right up Darby Allin's alley as well. So I certainly think it'd be Allin and Sting getting the victory. But yeah, what about you, Shad? Who do you see walking out locked in a coffin?
I mean, it's pretty simple. Sting and Darby are going to win this match. You don't have a match like a coffin match, which is Darby's match, and have him lose it. And then Sting is like untouchable. He's definitely going to win in pay-per-view matches. I have zero interest in this match at all. I spoke about it yesterday. They completely just destroyed any interest in this feud for me when they turned AR Fox, or they turned on AR Fox on this past Dynamite, because I know we're mixing feuds, because I know Darby has a feud with Luchasaurus for the pay-per-view next week. You completely just butchered a young star's like momentum and everything that he was doing by having this match, and I have like no interest in it. And this is a bathroom break match. This is a smoke break match if you're a cigarette smoker. At home, obviously. Yeah, at home too. I probably won't even watch it. I might even boycott watching this match because I'm so mad about what they did on Dynamite. I'm so frustrated with that, man. I can't get over that. But I got Darby and Stinger winning that match. I got them beating Swerve and Christian Cage.
You're gonna start an Instagram campaign starter.
Yeah, man. Justice for AR Fox, man. Come on.
I agree.
Seriously, I'm so with you. We talked about that yesterday.
And my cat is trying to.
I think there must be a travel issue
Cat's
with him.
just as upset about AR.
You want to see the match?
The cat's boycotting the podcast.
Cat's like, no.
They're so mad.
Yeah, man.
I gotta be honest. How did they not know there would be a travel issue with AR Fox before you booked the thing? It was weeks in advance. How do you not know this?
How did they not know there was a travel issue with several people? I mean,
rush to deliver passports, man. That's tougher than you think. And they booked the show pretty late. And that's where I would actually blame the organization. And I love Tony Khan. Don't get me wrong. I love AEW. But I would blame the organization well before I would blame the talent.
Oh, no, I don't blame AR Fox.
No, I don't think anybody's blaming the talent yet.
Yeah, if you don't know you're getting on the card, why are you going out of your way to get an expedited passport? And
and you're promoting this as the biggest card of the existence of pro wrestling. You wouldn't want to make sure you fill in any.
All I's are dotted, T's are crossed. Yeah,
exactly.
Honestly, like if this is the match you wanted and you weren't 100% certain you can get the passport, have him have a mystery partner. Then that gives you the out.
Have AR Fox have an injury or something? Not what they did.
Anything but what they did.
Literally any other option would have been better.
Literally anything but what they did.
Yes.
It was stupid. It really was. I do agree with you. I mean, Tony Khan's even said that it's not the talent's fault in that cryptic interview he did. I mean, he said he's going to reveal more details after All In, so we'll know more then. But he said that some stuff isn't the fault of talent, so I presume that's what he means there. But we got a comment from Bobby, who, not Lashley, but Tito, who is saying, I think Matt Cardona is doing something on August 27th for an NWA. Well, perhaps All Out then does seem the more likely thing if Matt Cardona does appear. But we'll have to wait and see there. Feels like we were saying Matt Cardona is going AEW, going WWE, AEW, WWE.
I think he's enjoying the indie run, man.
Yeah,
I really don't think he wants to go to a major like wrestling company right now. He's got so much freedom and he's like traveling and doing everything at his will. Like I don't think he's like dying to go to like AEW or WWE at the moment.
If he's going to WWE, he's going because of Chelsea.
Yeah.
If that's the move. He's not going to AEW, I don't believe.
He'll become one half of the tag team champion instead of
one half of one half. It's one half of one half.
He's a quarter of the tag team champions.
But now let's talk actual women's champions, and let's talk Hikaru Shida, the AEW Women's Championship champion, who will be defending her championship against Saraya, Toni Storm, and Britt Baker, DMD, in a fatal 4-way match. I hope this match gets time. I really, really hope it does, because we complained about this division lately. They then fixed it for like 2 weeks, and now they're just whatever again. But I'm hoping this match blows the roof off. I need to stop using that reference. There is no roof on Wembley, but I think they're gonna blow the imaginary roof off Wembley Stadium. Because, all these 4 women are great. I think together it'll be tremendous. Saraya, she is just great in general. And, of course, coming back to the UK, the crowd's going to love her. I reckon Shida will retain, but I think it's going to be, a very, very fun match. But, Clark, I know you have a theory. So go ahead and give it to us.
Saraya's going to have her moments, and Shida's not going to retain. It's the good doctor. DMD Dr. Britt Baker winning the title. And then here's the big one. Mercedes Moné is that all-out traditional debut in Chicago to the pop to confront Dr. Britt Baker, because I believe there's one match outside of the WWE and women's wrestling that is the match that WWE could not make as far as headlining in a women's division, and that's Mercedes Moné, former FKA Sasha Banks, against Dr. Britt Baker. And I want it. I want it while we have the chance, because Dr. Britt is as good as any woman in any company when she's firing on all cylinders, both as a babyface and a heel. And bell to bell, she's proven it over and over. They don't make an action figure with 5 different versions of your bloody face if you didn't do something right. I'll put it that way about Dr. Britt. DMD is the most over star outside of potentially Jade Cargill in AEW. Mercedes Moné, outside of that, is the most over star not in a WWE women's division. If you can book those two against each other, that can headline a pay-per-view
100%.
easily. And I have no issue with it. And you could make it a blood feud too, because with the talent they both possess to put on a violent match, that's something outside of WWE that we wouldn't normally get with Sasha Banks. And I remember how great she was with no fans, with the Thunderdome in Hell in a Cell against Bayley. Take the blinders off, take all that off. Dr. Britt Baker in a lights out style match, something like that. Are you kidding me? It'd be off the charts. And it's a tradition. 2 years in a row we've seen, I guess Max was a return, but we always get the big pop. Yeah. That to me is the big pop at the end of the All Out show. Mercedes Moné in Chicago.
Wow. I really hope you're right there. And Bobby Batito agrees with you, saying that he'd like to see Mercedes Moné versus Dr. Britt Baker. Yeah, I mean, the pop, that would be huge. And that would want if she does debut, there's zero excuse for them not to main event a pay-per-view. In fact, it would be insulting if they didn't. And I think that would, I think that would raise even more questions. But anyway, let's wait and see. But now let's talk about the tag team division. Let's talk about a match that I was kind of worried this time last week that we weren't going to see. A match which, it was a dream match for years. We've now seen it twice, but we're going to see it once again. The trilogy, the third one. Who's better, FTR or the Young Bucks? We're going to find out this Sunday in Wembley Stadium. Wow, when the being the elite joke started and all this, I didn't think that I'd see the final match of the trilogy in Wembley Stadium. I really didn't. I don't think anybody, if you go back to watching being the elite with the revival, I don't think anybody then could have told you, okay, well the third match of the trilogy between these two teams is going to be in Wembley Stadium and in AEW, not WWE. I don't think anybody would have said that. I mean, honestly, I'm so excited to see this in person. In terms of who I think is going to win, I think it's going to be the Young Bucks. But Anthony, give me your thoughts.
It's two conflicting styles. FTR is very much old school 80s style, pure tag team wrestling, and the Bucks are this hybrid, high flying version that they've kind of tailored after the Hardys, but a little bit more. For me personally, I'm more inclined to be an FTR fan. I love that pure tag team style. But I think ultimately politics will probably play a role. The Bucks are probably going to end up coming out on top on this. I can't imagine the elite losing on essentially the event they created. I just don't see them losing this. Personally, I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I'd be very surprised if the Bucks put themselves in the position of jobbing out. I think egos will absolutely play a role in this, and I think the Bucks will end up coming out on top.
I mean, in fairness, I want to make something clear here. They're not booking the division.
I understand that, but they are EVPs, and
they are. But I mean, at the same time, if I was booking this, the Young Bucks are, like you said, they created All In. They really, really did. They helped this entire, after Revival, which, I mean, the Revival were already over. They were, but they got even more over because of that. That created the FTR name for them. That was the Bucks who did that.
Yep.
So I actually think at the event which they created, I do think the Young Bucks actually, even though I am more a fan of FTR, I think the Bucks actually do deserve to win the trilogy.
So that would make it 2-1.
Yeah.
This is the rubber match.
This has to become almost best of 7. I'd almost prefer a no contest to be.
Oh no, not at Wembley Stadium.
No, I hate to say it, but like realistically, like think about that 1-1-1. Just saying, man.
I don't know how the crowd would respond to that.
We would respond badly. I can tell you how Wembley would.
That's a part of wrestling. It would be hot. It'd be a hot negative response.
I said before this should have been a 2 out of 3 falls match.
I don't know.
To be honest.
I
would
2
out of 3 falls could have been cool, but I mean, at the same time, this show is already very long, so I mean,
that's not the AEW from running long.
Baseball, it's got to be best of 7.
But we got a comment here from JD Designs who say, nice to see a good adult conversation about wrestling without the childish silliness from most other wrestling channels.
My friend.
Thank you so much, JD Designs. We really appreciate you tuning in and watching. We've also got a comment from Kenny Davis in RIP Bray Wyatt. What a great wrestler. WWE's finest and will truly be missed. And in his opinion, he's one of the best of all time. And I think a Hall of Famer, no doubt. I will agree with you on that one. Absolutely. And number 1 Superfly's got another prediction here. Tony Khan will be spending more than 5 minutes making announcements for either All Out.
It'll be an announcement that they're making an announcement that's on funny. Wednesday. That'll be.
That is funny.
That is funny, man.
That is funny. that is really funny.
An announcement for an announcement, which will lead to another announcement, which is an announcement.
That would be fun for sure.
It's hard to announce an announcement.
But now let's talk the main event of AEW All In. And let's also talk about the opener of AEW All In, because, well, MJF and Adam Cole will be in both of them. Because on the buy-in, in fact, the first match on the buy-in will be MJF and Adam Cole, known as Better Than You, baby, will be facing off against the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions, Aussie Open. And I believe that MJF and Adam Cole will win that. I believe that MJF and Adam Cole will be walking into the main event as co-tag team champions. Now, of course, weeks ago, I said about this, about how MJF handed Adam Cole a contract, which Cole didn't really, just blindly signed it. I think that was something by AEW to throw us off. I reckon maybe, Adam Cole checked it again later, or, Tony Khan had already checked through it, and it's a completely fair contract. It's a championship contract. There's nothing, unlegitimate about it. I think MJF was really just being a good guy. Shocker. Just being a good guy. However, I think Adam Cole is going to win this match. I don't know how. I don't know if it's going to be, a low blow. I don't know if he's going to toss pennies at him, because that's what, that was something which shout out to Bolly Ray on Busted Open Radio. He came up with that idea because, of course, Maxwell talked about how he used to have, quarters chucked at him for that to happen. And, that's how, he loses the match. Perhaps Adam Cole's got the quarters between his fingers to the face of MJF, similar to, the Dynamite Diamond Ring. But yeah, I think Adam Cole is the one turning Q. And I think Adam Cole is going to be walking out of AEW All In as the AEW World Heavyweight Champion because of that. I think all along we've been thinking Maxwell's going to be the one to turn. I think it was all a swerve, and Adam Cole will be doing it, and we're walking out champion as well. But Shad, I'll throw it to you first. Who do you think will be winning here in the main event of Wembley Stadium?
I think for the first, I guess the pre-match or the tag team match, I'm going to go and say that we're going to have MJF and Adam Cole win, continuing, this main event with them being tag team partners. And I feel like you're going to see the continuation of this fraction between both of them happening. And I think it'll build up to what we will have at the end of the night. And for this main event, I feel like there's going to be some sort of twist and turn within it, man. I feel like that contract has something underlined to it, and I feel like it's going to work in the favor of MJF. Maybe it's not really a title match. Maybe it's some sort of like number one contender match, or maybe there's some sort of stipulation to it. But I feel like it'll lead to a way where MJF retains as champ. And I think that we are going to see Adam Cole turn on MJF, but I don't know if it's going to be happening on Sunday. I feel like I said it on Thursday. I feel like we're going to get to a point where Adam Cole is going to eventually turn on him and go more, I guess you can call it heel. And I feel like he's going to align with the Kingdom and Roddy. I feel like maybe they'll be in some sort of manner to help him eventually get the title. Who knows? But I'm going to go with Max retaining as champ on Sunday night.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I mean, listen, if MJF's approaching now, a year of being champion, I think he wanted a full gear. So, I mean, there's a couple of months before, he does hit that, that year, milestone as champion. And I think he deserves that. I really, really do. But yeah, I personally don't think that, I think that's going to be the case. I think Adam Cole will get the win. But Anthony, whose side are you on? Do you reckon that Adam Cole's going to win, or MJF will retain?
Here's the thing. I wrote a couple of weeks back that I felt that like MJF would ultimately be the one to turn on Adam. As time has gone on, I'm leaning more towards Adam being the one turning on MJF. I think MJF, to me, I think should retain, because I think, and I wrote this in another piece, I think MJF against Punk at All Out to crown the undisputed AEW World Champion makes a lot of sense. So I think MJF retains. I think Adam will eventually probably get the AEW World Championship, but I don't think it's going to be an All In. The tag match, personally, I thought it was a bad idea to book it in the first place. The Ring of Honor tag titles are a lot like the NXT tag titles in WWE. They don't have the prestige they once had. So I think it can go either way, but realistically, I don't see Adam and MJF appearing on Ring of Honor TV or streaming service, whatever it's on, to defend these titles. I just don't. And if you have them defended on AEW TV, it kind of dilutes the whole Ring of Honor being a separate brand thing. So I think there's going to be a quote unquote miscommunication that cost them the match, which creates further animosity as they're facing each other in the main event that night. That's where I'm thinking it's going to go. And I agree with Shad. Ultimately, I could definitely see Adam reforming the Kingdom with this time Roddy, his undisputed era compatriot, and going against MJF. But I don't see MJF getting a group. I mean, he could, but I do think long-winded MJF retains.
Yeah. No, I do agree with you there that I don't think MJF's getting a group either, but I do think Adam Cole's going to be joining the Kingdom. I think for once the numbers game is going to be against MJF, and I think that'll be quite interesting, actually. And I realized as well I missed something quite big out of my prediction, and that's why Adam Cole's just turned on MJF, but they're the Ring of Honor Tag Team Champions. Well, that comes to the next part of my prediction. I think they're going to be doing a tournament. I think the championship is going to be vacated, or maybe even MJF tries to defend them on his own against the Kingdom. And then the Kingdom take them to Ring of Honor TV. I reckon that's what will happen. MJF on Dynamite this week will try and defend the titles on his own, and will lose against the Kingdom in basically a handicap match. That to me is what probably makes the most sense. But Clark, do you agree with everybody else that MJF will be retaining, or do you agree with me with a wild take that I reckon Adam Cole is going to get the job done?
I don't agree with any of you.
Oh, what? You're going to say
I agree with no one.
Mercury Renegade.
I agree with literally no one. I think MJF and Adam Cole win the ROH Tag Team titles in the opener. And I think, to your point, Ben, about the quarters situation, I don't know if you know a little story about Jacques Rougeau. With a handful of a roll of quarters, knocking Dynamite Kid unconscious backstage in WWE, as covered on Dark Side of the Ring.
Oh, of course, yes.
History with a roll of quarters. And I like that. They will win the titles. Adam Cole will have a roll of quarters. He's going to miss, and they'll go everywhere. And MJF is going to hit him with the Dynamite Diamond Ring and win the match. And none of the other stuff we talked about will happen, because on Wednesday, they will make up. Hey, we're still on the same page. We're best friends. We won the tag titles. What a match, of course. I tried to cheat. You tried to cheat. And it'll just be the seed planted for at All Out. When whoever MJF faces at All Out, CM Punk, maybe as Anthony suggested, could be anyone. That's when Adam Cole turns at All Out. That's
but
when Adam Cole turns.
Like you said, maybe CM Punk you could build, but that's going to be difficult in a week to build that.
Once he turns on the Dynamite after All Out is when they lose the ROH titles. So it's only one run to the ROH titles being lost on Dynamite, and whoever you put over them, given the dissension, gets television time and is featured on next or a week from Wednesday's Dynamite, essentially, right? After All Out. And it's another reason to watch ROH. They just beat the guys in the World Championship rivalry.
That's true.
And it's just it makes logical sense. I think the only caveat is you have to be guaranteed the CM Punk MJF match next weekend, and Cole has to still be on his side on Wednesday at Dynamite post All In.
The tough position that AEW is in by doing two major pay-per-views a week apart when you're doing a world title, there's only two options they could really put in there that has a built-in story. One is another rematch with Adam, or the CM Punk one that was teased last year. Realistically, they're the only two that they could put in where a week, literally from Wednesday to the following Sunday, you have a chance to build it. You're not going to be able to build anybody else other than those two in that spot, realistically.
No, that's a good point. But I mean, to your point, Clark, if they did do that tag team match on Dynamite this week where they lost the titles, well, that's the only time they
following All Out.
So MJF's already lost the title.
And they're already feuding with each other in the corner, so that gives the logical excuse for them to lose clean to whichever team you're putting over the week after.
But they're best friends, right? MJF's finally trusted somebody. Do you really reckon when this goes wrong that he's gonna be willing to stand in the same ring as Adam Cole without beating him completely?
Maybe that's how it happens. He turns on him during the match, and then leaves a partner.
I think what you could do is let's say MJF retains at All In. He faces Punk. He combines the titles with the help of Adam Cole. They're celebrating the ring. That's when Adam turns on him. Going, I only helped you because I wanted you to retain because I want to beat you for that title. I don't want to beat Punk.
In my fantasy scenario, I was putting the belt on Punk, so
I agree with Anthony.
With the roll of quarters,
you need to. Why would Adam Cole? If Adam Cole, lost to MJF for the championship, he will want to make sure that he gets another shot at MJF. Yeah, I prefer Anthony's idea. Sorry, Clark. I know you're the Chicago guy.
Already dissension. No,
I feel like
it's retrograde, Clark. It's retrograde.
I told her I laid out
Clark
a way
just
more.
Loves CM Punk so bad that he can't
go back
not book
and
him
watch
to win.
the film. I laid out a way more concise story than that.
I feel like the turn is going to happen in that tag team match. I feel like they're going to probably go against the Kingdom, and I feel like that's when Cole will align with them and turn on Punk and have them win the tag team title. That's what I think is going to happen.
I mean, this is really the beauty of this feud. This is why it's so well done.
Yeah, you can go many directions, yeah.
All four of us are like arguing, like, oh no, he'll go this way, no, he'll go this way. And that's good, that's good booking. Like,
honestly, they could all work. That's the best part of it.
Well, I would like any of these. I would like any of these options for real, yeah.
No, absolutely.
Sorry, I had weird deja vu over Jimmy Uso, but that's not the point.
But I mean, no, for real, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think this show, this Sunday, it truly will be an absolute blast, a historic show. Maybe not the biggest wrestling event of all time. I do think that's a little bit of a stretch.
Nice little tagline, yeah.
Yeah, but very WWE-esque, actually. I think fair enough to them. It's good marketing. It's good marketing.
What was the most stupendous WrestleMania of all time? Wasn't that the tagline or something?
Stupendous was pretty tough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm excited for All In for sure. Some quick updates before we finish the show. For SmackDown tonight, WWE have updated the listing for the show, and Jimmy Uso is no longer scheduled to appear, but Grayson Waller versus Rey Mysterio in a non-title match is still scheduled, and so is Io Sky defending the Women's Championship against Zelina Vega. As for tributes, nothing's been announced yet, but presumably they're going to pay tribute to Bray Wyatt and Terry Funk. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Like we've said in the first 20 minutes of the show, our thoughts right now are with the family of Wyndham Rotunda, JoJo, the children, Bo Dallas, everybody involved. It's obviously a very sad day in wrestling, and hopefully tonight he is honored on SmackDown. But thank you guys for watching. If you're on YouTube, we'd appreciate like, subscribe, all of that stuff. Same on all the other platforms. We'll be back here tomorrow at the same start time to give our thoughts on SmackDown, and then Sunday it'll be a later start time of the podcast. I believe it's probably going to be about 11:15 UK time, which would be 6:15 Eastern 3:15 Pacific, I imagine. I'll be scheduling it for, but it's gonna be one of those things where you just got to play it by ear that day because, yeah, we don't know how long that show's gonna go for sure. But we'll be back for the post show at that point. Thank you, Clark. Thank you, Shad, and thank you, Anthony, for joining me here today. And yeah, Bray Wyatt, you will always be remembered.